Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Lee, aka Rollin Thunder, and in today's video we're going to be talking about 2 new upgrades on the Big Bang R1. So sit back, relax, grab yourselves a cup of tea and let us get into the video. So ladies and gents, how are we all doing? I hope you're doing well. And as the title of the video suggests, we are talking about 2 new upgrades for the R1. Now the first one being, I have installed a set of heavyweight R&G bar ends, which are these lovely jobbies just here. They took about 5 minutes to install. They weigh a little bit heavier than the standard OEM bar ends, which I can report have helped reduce the vibration from the front end of the R1. If you guys remember, I had been suffering with buzzy handlebars over the last couple of days, and I've actually managed to find a way to dampen it just a little bit to make it a little bit more comfortable. The second upgrade I have made to the R1, you may or may not be able to see, well, I don't think you will, but from the B-roll footage that I put in the video earlier, you should have seen it. If not, I shall let you into a little secret. I have installed a set of Wezmoto braided brake lines. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have finally bitten the bullet and I've actually made the switch to braided lines. As you guys may remember from a previous video, I was toying with the idea of putting braided hoses on the R1, and that I was more than likely going to go with hell. However, in the R1 owners group that I'm on Facebook, I was directed towards a set of brake lines made by a company called Wezmoto. I will put a link to their website in the description below or in a card above, so you guys can go and check them out, because they make various different brake line kits for different bikes of different ages and brands and so on and so forth. And believe it or not, these braided lines that are now on the R1 is the first time I've ever attempted doing something like this. And I'll be completely honest, when I was doing it, I absolutely shat myself. I got brake fluid everywhere, I got washers everywhere, you know, quite literally bits and pieces went absolutely fucking everywhere. But I can safely say, after a lot of procrastination, a lot of fettling, a lot of fine tuning, I now have a set of braided hoses on the front of the bike which I believe are worthy of being on a bike of this caliber. I know I said in the previous video that I was going to put held lines on the R1 just like I did with the 1098, but unfortunately the lead time for those brake lines, I was looking at 2 to 3, maybe even 4 weeks. That's time I wasn't prepared to waste, so I went with the next best thing. I ordered the Wezmoto brake lines on a Friday, taking out of consideration the weekend. I had the new lines by the Tuesday, and by Wednesday morning they were fitted. And when I say this took a hell of a long time, because I'd never done it before, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it took me 3 hours. 3 whole hours. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of glad that I've done it, because now I can say that should I want to put braided hoses on any bike in the future, I've done it once, which means I can do it again. I have a little bit of a confession to make. I have had these brake lines on the R1 for near enough a week now, but what I can tell you, hand on heart, in comparison to the standard OEM lines, these are beautiful. And I don't normally refer to motorcycle parts as being beautiful, but ladies and gentlemen, the overall fit and finish of these brake lines, I couldn't ask for anything better. Admittedly, I could have spent stupid money and gone with Hell or Goodridge or Galfa or whatever, but when you're balling on a budget, as they say, you know, beggars can't be choosers. And with these brake lines, I think I've actually got a pretty decent deal out of it, I'll be honest. Now the way Wezmoto work, you can either buy it as a separate front line kit and a separate rear line kit, or you can basically buy them all together. If I bought braided hoses for the front as well as the rear of the R1, it would have cost me somewhere in the region of about £65–70. But because, I'll be honest, most of my braking these days is done with the front, quite literally it cost me $39.99 for a set of braided hoses, which in my honest opinion are almost BSB spec. And what can I tell you about the lines in terms of how they feel and everything else? I'll be honest, they feel 100 times, if not 1,000 times better than the standard brake lines, because I feel like I've got a much more direct connection with the calipers, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And during the actual process of elimination as to what lines I was going to go with and what brand I was going to go with, you know, like I've already said, Hell and Goodrich are two of probably the best brands on the market. But like I've already said, when you're balling on a budget, you've got to be a bit careful where you spend your money. And hand on heart, I can definitely say, and I mean this categorically, the braided hoses feel absolutely amazing. I kid you not. I can now brake harder and later than I ever could do with the standard lines. I've got much more feedback from these lines compared to the standard lines, and I know that might sound exceptionally vague of me saying that, but I can honestly say that I've gone from needing 2, 3 or sometimes even 4 fingers to brake, literally 1 or 2 fingers, and this thing is stopping like a freight train. That's the wrong kind of terminology, to be fair, because a freight train never stops quickly. But literally I can use these brakes to their fullest, literally from the first initial squeeze all the way to fully engaged. I'm getting so much more feedback and so much more communication between my hand and the actual wheel itself. I feel way more connected to the bike than I did with the standard lines. And that doesn't mean to say there's anything wrong with the standard lines, because there isn't. I've just noticed that where the standard lines are made of rubber, they expand a lot. And it's a bit of a weird one to try and explain, but if you can imagine when you're squeezing a hose pipe in one of those cheap nasty hose pipes that, you know, you can basically almost tie in a knot, and you can feel the hose expanding in your hand. That's what I feel with the standard lines. With these braided lines, however, nothing. No fade, no judder. They feel absolutely biblical. And as a trade-off to how good they feel, I'm getting way more confident on the R1. That may sound like I'm being extremely complacent. What the fuck was that behind me? It's a trike. But these brake lines just give me so much more confidence. You know, 1 finger braking, 2 finger braking, actually trailing the brake into corners and out of corners. I couldn't do that with the standard lines because it was so vague. It was literally so, you know, wooden. And I know people say that OEM brakes aren't the best in the world, and I'll be honest, they're not. But I'm not going to lie and say to you guys that you should instantly ditch your OEM lines and go straight to braided hoses. Some people have a huge amount of success with standard hoses and not ever have any issues. But for me, I've just found that, you know, with the way I ride, and let's face it, I don't ride slow anywhere. Sometimes it's just a case of, you know, I'm asking too much of the standard lines, and, you know, when they expand and stuff like that, it's a bit of a, you know, not so much will I stop, it's more of a case of can I stop. Whereas now with these braided hoses, it's not a case of me worrying if or when I'm going to stop, it's more of a case of how quickly am I going to stop, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But on the whole, ladies and gents, you know, with it being the first time me installing the brake lines, I'm not going to say to you it was easy, because it wasn't. But then again, the first time you do anything, it's never easy. You know, the first time you ride a push bike, it's never easy. The first time you go swimming, it's never easy. Do you know what I mean? But now that I've done it, and I'm proud of myself for saying that I've done it, because, you know, not everyone is prepared to tinker with their bikes. And again, I know I've had loads and loads and loads of people say to me, oh, you shouldn't do anything to your bike, it's perfect as it is, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. Yeah, okay, that's all well and good in principle, but unfortunately it's not your bike to make those decisions. Do you know what I mean? And as mad as it sounds, there are still a lot of things I want to do to the R1. You know, I want to replace these rear sets for some aftermarket ones so that I can keep the original ones nice and safe and they don't get damaged. I want to get a quick shifter. I'd love to get the official Okropovich decat link pipe for it. You know, there's so many things that I could and do want to get, but I'm not going to rush it. You get the people saying about carbon fibre parts. You know, there's only so much you can get carbon fibre wise before it becomes tacky, and that's the one thing I want to avoid. I do not want this bike to become tacky, and I don't think I'd be doing myself any favours if I got, you know, carbon fibre this, carbon fibre that, literally everywhere, because like I said, it'll get to a point where it becomes tacky. A few carbon fibre accent pieces here and there maybe, like the air intakes and stuff like that, possibly. Maybe some the frame covers, and maybe a swing arm guard. Like I said, maybe. I don't need them. It's just, you know, vanity at the end of the day. I still have to get rid of the not very nice looking anodized red chain adjusters, which I'm already looking into. I'm very tempted to get the Litec remotely adjustable ones, but they're like 250 quid. It's a lot of money for something to just adjust your chain. If I can afford it one way or another, whether it be through finance or it's just saving up and getting them, then that's what I'll do. But all a good time, ladies and gents, all a good time. A lot of the things that I'm looking at to get for the R1 now are literally little cosmetic upgrades here and there. I don't have to get them, it's more of a case of wanting them rather than needing them. And it's things like the decat link pipe. I don't need it, but I want it, just because I can then turn around and say, yeah, the R1 sounds absolutely disgustingly evilly loud. Doesn't necessarily mean to say that it's the right thing to do, but it's something that I can look at. Do you know what I mean? It's just like looking at the Kaufman's exhaust that I was looking at for a joke the other day. One of my friends who used to own a Big Bang R1 many years ago, he had one on his bike and it sounded like a V8 supercar. It really did. And I would go for that, but you know, my neighbours would kill me. So I'm not going to. I'm going to stick with the Akis that are on it at the moment, because let's face it, Okropovich and Yamahas, they just go together like cheese and wine. Do you know what I mean? That's a really bad analogy, I do apologise, but you get where I'm going with that. On the whole, you know, I love the R1 as she is, but like I've also said, there's more than a few random upgrades that I could do to her, not just cosmetically but obviously performance wise as well. But like I said, all in good time, all in good time, ladies and gentlemen. So in summary, ladies and gents, in terms of the upgrades that I've done to the R1 thus far, I'm very happy with the result of the bar ends. I'm even more happy, in fact I'm fucking ecstatic about how good the brake lines have turned out. And if you've got any questions regarding the brake lines or the bar ends or anything to do with the R1, please feel free to put a comment in the comments box down below, and I will do my best to reply as quickly and efficiently as I can. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you guys have been absolutely awesome. I have been Lee, aka Rollin Thunder, saying look after yourselves, look after each other, stay safe on the roads, be aware of COVID-19, be safe, be happy, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Adios.